Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special Sunday night Hotline League. We are doing this at 8 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock because we had some technical difficulties. I technically couldn't get a hold of my co-host, and so
I technically was in bed sleeping.
and so and so we are now doing this at an hour later. And the day earlier is because in approximately 12 or so hours, I will be boarding a plane to Korea so that I can attend
Play
Media
Magic the
Day
Gathering.
so that I can attend the Media Day and the World Finals. I have a sponsor who's bringing me out to do an event the day before. So technically, my coverage will still not be sponsored while I'm out there, which is very funny. But I'm going to take the money that the company's giving me from the day before finals and spend it to create some coverage. So I don't know if we'll get anything out of finals, but at least Media Day and maybe some other stuff. We'll see. Anyway, let's talk about some stuff. So we've had more things. My rumor that Tactical had told Immortals to bail. Hey, Mark, you slept through the day, so you don't know what's been happening.
Nope, no.
Okay,
No idea what's on the front page.
So I don't think it's even on the front page right now. Well, one, Ignar is apparently going to excel according to Sheep Esports.
I saw that one.
Yes. And then I think Sheep, but it doesn't look like it even made the subreddit. Oh no, there it is. Made it to Immortals. So or has continued to be on Immortals. I had heard that rumor that we joked about last time about him telling Immortals no thank you, but I don't know, maybe that never happened, or maybe he went and looked around and couldn't find anything else. Who knows? But that's some of the latest stuff over from Sheep Esports. I'll shout out Alienware for sponsoring this episode, which I really appreciate. And we'll talk about more stuff. But Mark, first off, what have you been up to this past 6 days, I guess?
Not much. You know, you've heard most of my updates. Nothing really going on in my life.
I mean, you've got to be consuming some media, which is normally what this... Normally, this part of the show is never... Well, Travis, I've decided to take a new approach to health, and so I've been jogging on the beach, and I've been doing this. Normally, this is just you being like, this is what I've watched, this is what I've played, maybe this is what I've read.
Haven't read anything. I'm going through Bands of Morning audiobook. I am still playing Cyberpunk, trying to I'm basically 100%ing it. Well, I don't know. I've kind of my thoughts haven't changed much from last week on that. I did watch what is it called? Quiz Lady. It's not great. It's
Quiz
like a
Lady?
Quiz Lady. It's a movie with Awkwafina and Sandra Oh, and it's like...
Oh, I've seen ads for that, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those movies where we put it on thinking it would be like a C or a D movie, and then it's like a B plus. And so because my expectations were so low, I actually really enjoyed it, but I don't want to overhype it and make it sound like it's really good. But if you're just nothing to do and want a comedy movie to throw on in the background, that's actually pretty good.
Gotcha.
But we haven't gone to the movies in a hot minute. There's no good movies out. There's starting to be good movies again. Well, I guess not good, but at least popular-ish movies. We'll probably watch Miss Marvel soon and some of that stuff.
I think it's the Marvels, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah, whatever.
I was going to see it, and then my plans ended up falling through, but I found out from somebody that it's only an hour and a half, which feels so short for a superhero movie. I'm not saying that wow, you really need all this extra time. I'm just damn, I can't think of the last time a superhero movie was 90 minutes long.
Yeah.
Disney Plus episodes of some shows are that long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I heard it wasn't very good either. So, maybe that's why they were let's just get this out of here.
Yeah. I need to, for the plane, I have downloaded some more Doctor Who because I'm still working my way through that with a rewatch guide. And then I also downloaded Loki because I think I've only seen the first episode of that second season. I need to continue to watch it, but I heard it was good.
Yeah, I've watched there's a bunch of things that always are running in the background that I'm not paying enough attention to give my full thoughts. Ashley's been going through Castlevania, and I've been kind of watching that. Actually seems pretty good, which people have said for a long time. I watched some Freerin, no whatever the hell. I liked it a lot. She was kind of meh on it, so we noped out of there. There's an anime about uh, this alchemist or apothecary girl. That one's actually really good, but I can't remember the name of that one. Um, Attack on Titans come to an end, but we haven't finished that yet, so we have to do that. I don't know, a lot of stuff. Loki was she was watching Loki. I wasn't watching. I didn't like season 1 Loki, so when she put on season 2, I
Really?
was like, I'm out of
That's
here.
crazy. I
Yeah,
feel like it's one of the only good things that they've done post Endgame or whatever.
I will say, like, I don't think it's terrible, and I think it has like cool ideas, but I was just really taken out of the plot because there was just no internal consistency about anything. Um, like Loki's powers, just like he was either a god and like stopping buildings from falling and doing crazy shit, or like he
Yeah.
was getting into a fist fight with someone on a train, and like it just didn't feel like they respected his character at all from like a lore standpoint. And like you and I both love hard magic systems, and I'm like, why can't this god do anything in this situation when like literally a scene ago I just watched him do something, and like it
Sure.
just took me so out of it. I was like, I can't, like, the stakes are whatever the writers want them to be, the actions whatever the writers want it to be. There's like nothing consistent here at all, and I just kind of, my eyes glazed over at some point.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair. The nice thing is that you mentioning that reminded me that I finished The Sunlit Man, which was Secret Project Book 4 for Brandon Sanderson. I really liked it. It is definitely the most Cosmere of the 3 Cosmere books he released this year, and I definitely had a hard time putting it down. I think the other books I was able to kind of slow roll, but because this one was very action movie esque, it was very easy to rip through. I need to check, but I feel like it was fairly short. I had the copy in here. I have the book. I can show it off. The for anybody who did back the Kickstarter, you'll know how beautiful these books have been. They're just really, really nice. So,
Dude, sprayed edges for some reason just get me going. It's like the easiest hack on a book to make me be like, I need to get that. It's just spray the edges, and I'm like,
well, I
yes.
think this is just the most beautiful. It's hard because I'm a little desaturated today on the camera, but this like bright red with the gold foil and everything, it just crushed it. I don't know. Oh god, it's so beautiful. Anyway, so I really enjoyed that. I should also say, I think I mentioned this on the last stream, but like I will be leaving from Korea right after finals to go to the. Oh, Mark's got some sort of thing that's happening right now.
Ashley heard us talking about books and appeared out of nowhere.
Oh,
I was
really?
just saying I like sprayed edges because Travis was showing off a book. She's left.
Oh,
She
okay.
said, "Oh, left."
She can call in and share her book opinion. But oh yeah, I'm going to be at the Dragonsteel Con, Brandon Sanderson's convention in Salt Lake, which is the first couple days of Thanksgiving week. So I will actually be on 2 panels. I'm hosting a panel on the Sunlit Man and also on romantic theory, because that's how fucking dirty I am. Which is really, really cool. Unfortunately, this is much to Mark's pleasure. I signed up for these 2 panels before I knew what times they were at, and they are right on top of the Magic the Gathering draft that Brandon Sanderson does. So I will not be
Haha.
drafting with that crew, and instead I will be in a different hall talking about realmatic theory. So
I mean, that gets me more interested than anything because I was like, I'm so deep on that, you know, and I'm watching the like book read-alongs, you know,
sure.
because you did one of those, right? So I was watching the Sunlit Man read-along kind of, or like
I did
book
one of
club
those.
things that.
What
Did
do
you
you
not do
mean?
one of those? Am I crazy?
You thought I was on one of Brandon's like book clubs?
I thought you did something. I don't know. I'm confusioned, I guess.
Yeah, I did not. But I will be. I will. Maybe what you saw was that I'm hosting, like they're doing a live book club type thing for Sunlit Man and at Dragonsteel Con, and that's what I'm doing. So I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, but
Anyways, I watch those and I see people being like, I think this is how it works. I'm like, oh, guys, have you not read every word of Brandon like
yeah.
about romantic theory? Like, come on.
Yeah. So the topic of the panel is like it's like Sanders Studies 401 Advanced Realmatic Theory, and the description is like, what have we learned about realmatic theory from the books that were released this year? So I'm trying to corral my my panelists along with me. But basically, I want to do like, okay, we're going to spend like 10 to 15 minutes sort of recapping what we've learned and what we thought was interesting about romantic theory from each of the books, and then we'll do Q&A afterwards. So it'll be very fun. So if you are going to DragonSteelCon, please come say hi to me. It'll be fun to bump into folks there. Anyway, I think we're all caught up now on stuff. Also, I'll be at finals, so if you see me at finals, that would be swell, and I'll have an announcement of what I am doing on Saturday in Korea.
League of Legends starts now. We know what, Travis, you should get an on-screen indicator. You know, have some people have like their spoilers indicator. We need like our weekly recap section to be like officially.
I mean, in the VOD and in the podcast release, we do timestamps.
Yeah.
And then like live, it's not like people really need to like come in and out of this stuff. You know, like they just leave it on, and then whenever we get to something. Like, quite frankly, part of the reason we do this is because when we do the show live, we start to build viewership, especially on a night where we weren't able to announce everything beforehand. So, you know, it's kind of like, okay, now we've got some people watching. Now we can talk about everything. So, let's get into everything. Obviously, we had a banger of a series last night. Spoiler warning, I guess, but we've got T1 in the finals again. Faker continuing his adventures. I bring this up because I feel like no one else will bring it up. Last week, we didn't talk at all about Worlds, and that was because Mark couldn't find anybody who wanted to talk about Worlds. You know, we could only talk about what the callers want to talk about. We can't fake call-ins, but if folks want to talk about that, if they want to talk about how, you know, we were getting so much grief for not beating Weibo with NRG, and now they're heading to the fucking finals, folks. You know, oh, sorry, we couldn't beat the fucking finalists. Maybe
easy side of the bracket.
Yeah.
You know, Weibo versus NRG, it's free.
Yes.
Well, sorry, Gen G, you shitter first seed LCK, and BLG, you shitter second seed LPL.
Anyway, yeah, Faker's still undefeated against LPL at Worlds, and it's been a fun couple of nights. I couldn't make it through all games last night, and I had to catch up this morning. I was up for the first two and was talking to Yet about it. Mark, you and I have different sleep schedules. Mark, you don't get to be like, oh my god, I can't believe. Why? Why, Mark? Why? Because you could just sit around and do nothing this entire time? Because this is the one thing that you're getting paid for during this time?
No. You only have to stay up till 4 because we got the time sync back. So instead of starting at 1 a.m., they start at midnight now.
Yeah,
you know, you stay up till 4 a.m.
If it's a 5-game series, it ends at 4.
Maybe 5 if it's the whole 5 games. It was only 4 games yesterday, though. All right, I
have things I'm doing, including, by the way,
What did you do at?
Here's one thing I have to do, Mark, is I have to wake up at very early tomorrow to make it to my flight. So, and then you're like, well, you can just sleep on the flight. Well, the problem is that I have to go to sleep immediately so that I can make it to the media day on Wednesday at a reasonable time in Korea and actually do work there.
Don't sleep on the flight then. That's what I do.
I'm not going to sleep on the flight. My problem is I can't fuck my sleep schedule to where I'm going to sleep at 5 and then get on a plane early morning, you know, sleep no time at all, and then get on a plane.
I think you could, but you know, that's just me because that's what I do.
No, you couldn't. You could not stay up for 48 hours.
That's literally what I did for Ireland trip and coming back.
I stayed up for 48 hours.
Basically, yeah. I don't sleep on planes because I just can't do it, and I'll usually not sleep a ton beforehand, so that way when I land at that place, I'm just fucking conked out.
Construction Steve in the chat says, Mark kinda a bully, and I've been saying that for close to 300 episodes. But yeah, NFC PM says, Mark couldn't even stay up to make the show on time. Yeah, the guy who slept through the start of the show doesn't get to talk about my sleep schedule. I just completely
forgot. It's a fucking Sunday. I forgot we were doing it.
All right, anyway. So
that's not my sleep. That's me being an idiot. I will defend my ability.
Worlds to talk about if people want to talk about it, but we also have Ignar going back to Excel. Here's what I will say. I tweeted the boomerang thing because Ignar is going back to LEC. And then a bunch of people came after me and was like, how is this a boomerang? He's been here for 4 years. Well, let me tell you what a boomerang does. A boomerang goes somewhere, and then it goes back to where it started. That is
Travis,
literally what is happening right now.
You are stretching this so far.
I am not stretching this so far. Listen to me, Mark. We just had a fucking no. Let's have this conversation now because this is great. You can represent all the people that are coming after me on Twitter about having this take. Because a bunch of people are like, "How dare you have this take?" We just had this player come over here. He didn't get much attention for a while. He finally gets to a point where, like, wow, people love these 5 guys. They fucking outperform. They have the Cinderella story. They switch orgs in the middle of the split. He's on it. They go off to Korea, and they have the best performance. And then we lose him to another region. And I wanted to note here that people seem to think this means, oh, Travis is angry with Ignar. Like, I had a lot of people who were getting defensive on behalf of Ignar. I'm not angry at Ignar. I am frustrated with a system wherein, oh, cool, we had this player who took many years to get to a point where, boom, doing great at Worlds, everybody can get excited about him. And then the very first thing that happens within a couple of weeks is it gets reported that he's going to LEC. That is a frustrating moment. I think people should feel fine and are justified, like myself, to be frustrated that is how the LCS functions these days.
It's still not a boomerang. Like the crux of your point being like, it sucks that a great team seems to be breaking up a little bit that everyone loves. That's fine.
No,
but it's not.
It's not about breaking up, Mark. This is not like TSM, with Double Lift leaving and Sven and Mithy coming in. This is a situation where we had a player who's going back to Europe after becoming what could have been like a really great star for the league.
Okay, Ignar is never going to be a star for the league. No offense, love the guy, but he doesn't like have the personality or anything to be like a star. He's a really good player, but he's like popped off plenty of times in the past before. He popped off for Europe in 2017 for Misfits. He did decently, for us on FlyQuest in 2020. Like he is good. He's been good for years. He's been around this level with highs and lows at different points in his career. So like, yeah, I don't understand. Like he's always been pretty good. He had some good performances this year. Again, the FlyQuest team was really easy to root for. A lot of NA guys on the top side of the map. And yeah, it sucks that they're breaking up. But how is this a boomerang? Like, plenty of players have 4-year careers or under just from North America who come into the league, play for a couple of years, don't quite work out, and then they're gone.
Do you think Igor didn't quite work out?
No, I'm saying that like the lifespan of the average pro player isn't much longer than 4 years.
You are correct in that, but I don't think that they tend to leave on career. They don't tend to retire on career highs.
Who cares how they leave? The point being that this is not a boomerang. He played in North America longer than the average pro player plays at all. So like,
literally, the definition of a boomerang is something that flies and then it comes back.
Okay, so planes are boomerangs. Because they fly to Boston, then they fly back to Los Angeles. A plane is a boomerang.
A boomerang,
like fucking anything that goes from one place to another is a boomerang.
Boomerang.
Dude,
within the context of this analogy,
yes.
And
then it goes back to the couch.
Within the context of this analogy, yes.
It's a boomerang. Dude, my ass is boomeranging all over the place right now.
So, okay, fine. Let's say it's not a boomerang. Let me ask you this. Do you think it's a good thing for the league that we have a player who came over here and is like now going back to the region after getting to the point where they're at the top of the league, and now they are going back to Europe?
Have the goalposts shifted?
The goalpost is
now the goalpost.
You dispute my definition. Fine, we will use your definition. Let me just continue to act like, rather than arguing semantics, let's argue my point, which is this is not a good thing for the league, and like this perpetuates a continual issue.
Yes. Sort of, yes. I think that this team breaking up sucks. And to the point, yeah, like I wish that this team played again next year. And even ThinkCard was saying, like tweeting this as well. The coach of Energy was saying, like change is kind of inevitable. But this is like the 1 year I wish that like there wasn't any change. I agree. This team has fans now and it's getting changed. That said, I think the thing that is worth looking into is why is it changing? Like, does Ignar not have any opportunities in NA, or has the economy of the league collapsed to the point where he is getting more money now to go to Europe? Or is it just a better situation that's available to him in Europe? Is Excel really the better situation? Who can say? Maybe. But I agree that it's not good. You would like to keep your players in your ecosystem, but this happens. It's happened in the past. I think
this happens is such like a not.
I mean, like this, like you can't, like, you brought a player over. They played a long period of time, and now they're going somewhere else. Like, I don't really have an issue with that part of it. I think the question is, like, is it happening because the economy has collapsed? Is the bigger question for me that is a concern. And similarly, like, the reason I'm not like super perturbed that he's leaving for like going back or not is, I think, how do I put this? Like, I don't want to say he served his time because that makes it sound like he was in prison in North America.
Yes.
But like he gave a lot, you know, like he played, he competed. He was like, it wasn't like he was just like it wasn't like someone who came over for the wrong reasons.
I get that this is not as bad as like a Perks or an Alfari or one of the.
Yeah, like when you throw the boomerang emote, yes. I actually love when you do that because a lot of the times it's justified, and those guys clearly came over, and sometimes it's not their fault. You know, like sometimes it's
I don't throw the boomerang
forcing.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, so the boomerangs, sometimes it's a pro player trying to come to NA to get the bag. We've heard rumors of players who have done that before. There's also times where this European player or, you know, Korean player is not given proper opportunities in their region or whatever, and then they come over here for a little bit. Like, so those are the ones that really bother me when that player then goes back to their ecosystem, because it's like, you didn't even want to fucking be here in the first place. For all intents and purposes, Ignar wanted to be here and just has a better opportunity somewhere else. So, like, I'm not so upset at that. It's more like, why is the opportunity better in Europe now? That concerns me.
Here's the final thing I will say on this, so and then we can start getting into calls and stuff. But when I throw the boomerang, it is not to throw shade at the player, which is what I think a lot of people think, and I understand that's not what you think, but I just want to double down on your clarification there, because I think a lot of people misunderstand that. They get defensive on behalf of the player. I see Raz in chat saying it's not bad, and I know you're saying, hey, 4 years is not that bad, and I understand what you mean. I do think it is more frustrating whenever we make a big deal about Perks coming over and then Perks leaves, or Sword Art coming over and then Sword Art leaves. That being said, I continue to feel as though whether or not, like, this is not a situation where the player is retiring. This is a situation where the player is going to a different region after coming here. If this player had been a North American talent, that player would probably continue to be playing here. Like, you don't see a situation where players in North America play for 4 years and then they get a better offer and then they go to another region. It's just not like a thing that tends to happen here. And so I still file this under the, hey, it's really unfortunate that, and very difficult for fans to build equity and fandom around a player when you start to build it and that player leaves. And oftentimes that comes in the burst of 1 year, like Perks, and sometimes, rarely, it comes in the case of 4 years, like Ignar. I continue to think this is not a great thing. That being said, I think if I was to go to Riot and say, hey, you got to fix this, I don't think it's a situation where I would want to solve for this type of case. I think this only feels bad whenever Ignar's name is on a long list of players from the past 4 years who have come to North America and left. So in the vacuum, not that big of a deal. As a symptom of the bigger issue, I think a much bigger issue. So that's where I'll finish it.
I think the most important thing we got out of this conversation is that my ass is a boomerang, and literally anything that goes there and back again. Bilbo was a boomerang. There and Back Again was actually a boomerang autobiography. That was the keyest of takeaways.
You're memeing the analogy, but I think everybody knows that it's an analogy mark. It is easier to sometimes put a boomerang emoji than to be like, well, guys, I'm disappointed in another case of the systematic failure of the LCS to retain talent over time as a means of building fandom and increasing the interests of many people in the LCS so that we can continue to celebrate the league and the sport on a national level. And not continental level, regional level, whatever you want to say.
There's no longer a 240 character limit. That would have fit in a tweet.
Are you sure?
An X, a Z.
All right.
So, what now? Do I pull people?
Well, normally, Mark, this is a college show.
Oh, right.
Maybe we can take some calls if that's okay.
Yeah. So, for people who don't know, we might be confused after the first 30 minutes. This is actually a live call-in show. Go ahead and join up in the Discord link. I posted it earlier. I'm posting it again. If you want to get on the show, go ahead, join that link. Join one of the voice channels. And then go ahead and write your topics in the text channels, either pleb topics or subtopic sex channels. If I like it, I'll pull it. And then you'll be on the air talking. And some people like to put their take, but don't join a room. Some of them even work for Riot, like our stats guy, who put a take in and then didn't fucking join a room.
Classic.
All right. So hopefully he joins a room, but we'll see. If not, no big deal.
Medic can also join the room. Medic says he disagrees with my take, and that's completely fine.
Are we going to pull a take about it after we already argued for 10 minutes?
I mean, if it's Medic, I feel like people would like that, but maybe not.
All right, we'll see.
You're the take puller. You could deny Medic his take if you want to, if you fit it in the Discord.
Sounds boring. Skip. I do have one pulled already. Should I go pull that person while?
No. I think here's the other thing. While people are putting their takes in, we can talk about Worlds. We can also talk about off-season stuff. Anything else, I think it's completely on the table. There's obviously been a decent amount of stuff. I mean, the Fudge stuff. Fudge has now officially had his contract extended. I see people in the chat talking about that. We discussed that a little bit last week. A lot of the stuff that I discussed last week has now been further, I guess, pushed on the front of Sheep Esports stuff, so we can discuss.
What about Malring? Oh, I was deep in a comment section for 100 Thieves signing River or whatever, and someone was like, God, Travis was so wrong because he said he thought it was going to be Malring. And then someone replied to him and was like, no, Travis didn't say that. He said someone yelled that at him while driving by when he was trying to eat a burrito or something.
Yeah, I mean, I also mentioned River in that conversation, but like, this is what happens is people. So immediately after the show last week, somebody makes a tweet like, wow, Travis is just putting a bunch of stuff out on there. Somebody replies to that tweet and is like, hey, what did he say? And then somebody slams everything I said at a 15-minute long like conversation into a 240 character tweet. And one of them just said 100 Malring. Like, that was how they glossed over my discussion of 100 T's jungler and everything. They just wrote 100 Malring. And then Reddit used this fucking tweet from like a egg account or whatever the equivalent of an egg account is now, and just made that the fucking headline and put all that into the comments about, everything I just said. And then everyone in the comments are like, wow, Malring's going to 100T and all this other shit that I like said about, hey, here's kind of what's going on, blah, 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 blah. And then I was just like, oh my fucking God. And exactly what you said, I knew that was what was going to happen. Because you were like, oh yeah, you murked your own Reddit thread or whatever we were talking about at the walk afterwards. Yeah. And I'm like, I did that because shit like that happens where like 6 months later, people will be like, Travis is a joke of a content creator. He has, he completely gets everything wrong every offseason. I'm just like, okay. I will say, here's one rumor I'll throw out though. The EG has sold rumors continue to perpetuate. And there's like, they were like, okay, originally they were going to sell to this, and then that rumor died, and I don't know if that's because it fell through, but now there's a rumor that they've sold to another team, so we'll see if anything hits in the next week or so. And by the way, Golden Guardians releasing these players, or these players going to other teams. Like I think Gory is announced that he's able to look for stuff or whatever. I think that continues my firm belief that this team is getting sold off.
They're getting kaboomed.
I just think that that's the case. Not kaboom. That's what happened to. Was it evil? No, it wasn't Evil Geniuses. It was Alliance. Not kaboomed. That's the Alliance special, but yeah, something else. All right. I think it's time for calls.
Alrighty, let's do.
Let's do as he cuts out himself off. All right, thank you to some folks here. We got oh my god, Joseph Joestar, Rhett CS1, Jay Senny, Magnificent, Shroom5, Zachary, Lucas Supertramp, Oriso, Sudafox, Warden Xenon, Vimstrike, Jammin TST, some other folks that I got before. I'll read off the rest of these whenever we have another break. But Mr. Bojangles is here. Mr. Bojangles, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling in from Washington State.
Washington State. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I wanted to talk about how exciting it is that Shopify Rebellion is pulling up Zazal and Fake God from the NACL.
Oh, this is great because are you one of those people that have been tweeting me angrily about it?
No, I don't really use Twitter.
Great. No, this is another thing that
yeah.
Have you seen this?
That was the least convincing. No, I don't use Twitter. I felt that.
No, I don't know if you've seen this, Mark, but I have said previously that that I felt like Shopify's entrance into the space, I love it, is going to be disappointing. And then I had some people be like, oh, well, they're signing Zazal. That's exactly what NRG did, or CLG did. How can you fucking hypocrite? You're a joke. Actually, let me see if I can find that tweet.
I've seen them floating around that, you said people aren't going to be excited about this roster, and people have different expectations of you. You want Perks, Alfari, Sword Art all on a team together, and instead you got some homegrown, salt of the earth.
Yeah. Here's the exact quote.
Americans.
Hey, Travis, you said org should do what NRG did, but said Shopify was going to be disappointing. Yet Shopify are doing exactly what NRG did. Can you explain if you became a two-faced clout-monger piece of crap at birth, or was it acquired? You never cared about NA.
Who hurt him?
I mean, can we agree that that's like a pretty well-written tweet, though?
Before
we talk about the content,
it's just like, this is where we're at.
The setup and payoff of that is like pretty good.
You never cared about NA is a pretty big fucking jump.
Were you born a fucking two-faced rat, or did you grow into it like in puberty, or like when?
I look at so many other content creators who have like left to different games from the LCS, or have just stopped doing content around the LCS, mostly do content about other regions. I'm still here making videos about every little thing that I'm frustrated about the LCS doing. But I never cared about NA, Mark. I don't know what I care about.
No, that sounds right.
I guess
you're
clout
still
mongering.
Chasing clout.
Yeah.
Yeah, aren't you still after that?
Dude, if I am chasing clout, boy, am I doing it the wrong way. I will say that.
That's a great distinction to make. It's not your intentions. You are clout chasing. You're just terrible at it.
Terrible at it?
Yeah. Like, you clearly should have jumped shark to Valorant when that became popular.
No, dude, I should have followed
Overwatch League.
No. It's none of those things. Those things, if I wanted to clout chase, I would have just gone and done like streaming stuff. Streamer content. I would have followed Broden over and tried to do enter the live stream fails meta of streaming and stuff. Others have done it before. Okay, so Mr. Bojangles, first off, why don't you elaborate a little bit on your take, because you said that they were excited about this.
Yeah, so some of the reasons why people should be excited, because Zazal's been in the game for a while. He was part of the semifinalist Cloud9 team back in 2018. And he's kind of disappeared since then, so people not know a ton about him. But he's taken a game off of Genji at Worlds, who had Ruler at the time, going toe-to-toe with him. And he's been a development gem in the NACL. He's taken 2 different AD carries on 2 different orgs, and won both the spring and summer NACL championship, along with Fate God. And this is the grassroots NA talent that callers in the past have talked about. I think this is going to be one of the first teams that's kind of trying to copy the NRG blueprint for being able to get really good value, get guys who work well together to be able to win a championship.
So what I will say to you, and also to the this Twitter person, I'm excited to see Zazel and Fake God get picked up, especially Zazel, who I think was really good on C9 and is a perfect example of a player who might, have what was his complete path afterwards? I'm trying to remember before he ended up in Academy. I'm going to look it up. But who had a great entrance on C9 and then ended up on, he was on EG. Yeah, right when EG came into the league and they were kind of a mess. And then straight into Academy and stuff afterwards. And I think very often we have players who are on top teams then end up on a team that is underdeveloped or undersupported, etc., which I would say, EG later on proved themselves to be pretty good, but I think that they scrambled to throw a bunch of random shit together in their first year because of when they entered the league. And then, was not really given another fair shot for a little bit. Did some coaching for C9, etc. So I think it's great that he's coming in. When I talk more about the stuff that I'm disappointed in Shopify, it is not that they are not picking up, or that they're picking up somebody like Zazel. It is that what my understanding of a lot of what they are planning on doing in the space was sort of retain a lot of the zombie TSM stuff that was going on previously. And I don't think that it is fair to be like, well, they picked up Zazel, so this is what CLG or NRG did. And I think it's better to point to CLG rather than NRG for giving folks this credit. A lot of what CLG did was also build out, one, bring in a GM who was able to build this stuff, but also build out a coaching staff and a support staff that was really strong, and then look at things in a long-term way. And I would love to have seen, no offense to the players that were on TSM last year, but I would have loved to see sort of a ground floor rebuild with a GM that has a strong history of building successful rosters and build a coaching staff around that as well. So I don't think it's as simple as, hey, we're just grabbing two of these players. Again, I'm excited to see them come into space, especially Zazel, but yeah.
Let me tell you first how you're wrong. Well, first let me tell you how Zazel's good, and then I'll tell you how you're wrong. Because some people in Twitch chat, yeah, I know, but some people in Twitch chat are debating it. And I feel like he just there's some players who get the cursed tag of not good in lane. I feel like that's one of the worst tags you can get applied to you for whatever reason. People are like, this guy's a jerk, or this guy's this, or this guy's that. I don't think anything will make people scared of picking up fast than he's just not very good in lane.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of what he got hit with. Danny was bad in lane. Yeah, Danny's I think a great counterexample where he had he's not great in lane, but he'll 1v9 the game later. But I don't know why that tag of not good in lane suddenly carries such weight that you're just we can't play with him or something. So I think Zazel is really, really good in shot calling. You can hear it in his comms. People have worked with him, talk about how smart he is. He's clearly dedicated to the scene. He's been around a long time. I'm excited to see him back. I think it's fair to say, I wonder how his laning is going to be now that he's back in the LCS. But he won Academy, or Proving Ground, excuse me. So he's pretty good. And I think the point of people saying that this is similar to NRG, I think, is the taking players who have fallen off the wagon a little bit and putting them back on it, which happened with Insanity, happened with Fake God, and happened with Zazel, where all three guys have kind of had to bounce between the LCS and its tier 2. So there is that comparison that I see where people are talking about, as well as the tweaking things over time. Which is something else that NRG did, where they didn't just full rebuild the roster from the ground up. They kept pieces that stuck around. So you have Insanity, Boogie. Do they have an AD carry yet? Am I tripping? The Turtle?
I think it might. Again, do they have any of these players? But I don't think that there's been any news that it's somebody other than Turtle.
Right. So let's assume for now it's Turtle, and you're bringing in Zazel and Fake God. Cool. Like they kept some of the pieces they thought worked, which was their mid jungle. I'm surprised Chime is out, but maybe there's something there that we don't know about. And we'll see if they change over their bot lane. I mean, maybe Turtle and Chime are both gone. Who knows? But yeah, it's like I can see why the comparisons are being made, even if I don't think it, like you're saying, is exactly the translating 1-to-1.
Yeah, is this much different than what like an Immortals or Dignitas has done in the past? I don't think that you get to just be like, well, they picked up 2 players. That's what that are like NA talent. That's like the energy special. I think what energy and or CLG did was a lot more exhaustive and a lot more impressive and a long term sort of thought process than this. So, but maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe they'll be lifting the trophy in spring, and then again they can play this and be like, Travis is wrong.
No. If it's gonna mirror energy, they're gonna come out and they're gonna get like 9th place. We're gonna be like, see, they fucking suck. They're gonna change out one player and then they win in summer, or do well in summer at least. Yeah. That's the energy.
And just to jump in, one point that I want to toss in there is that Zazel actually had an opportunity to come back to the LCS this past summer split. He actually declined a couple of different offers on like the lower tier orgs to actually run it back with Disguised Toast.
Yeah.
So another reason why we should all be excited is our guy isn't going to come back to the LCS unless he's going to be part of what he thinks is going to be a competitive roster.
I wouldn't make that jump, but maybe. I know he could have done it, but he Disguise released all those players, right? And so I think maybe this is a good time for him to jump in. And also, like, there's not much academy support anymore, so I think he might have this might be a better solution for him than you think, I guess is the way I would say. Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Bojangles, for the call. Anything that you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out my girlfriend Athena and my dogs. I couldn't be here without them. And also Alienware. It's super awesome that they've been dedicated to you for so long. And I've actually personally picked up a couple of Dell monitors because of your sponsorship.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. That's fantastic to hear. And thanks again for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Absolutely. Catch you guys later.
See you. All right. I wanted to grab another caller, Mark. While he's doing that, I will just read off some more Twitch subs. The Alchemist, Cal L gifted a sub. Leo the Chosen, Decimaya, Wild for 52 months. That's wild. VX Song, Conneria. Anonymous Gifter gifted 5 subs. Thank you, Anonymous Gifter. Very generous of you. Penguin Buddy 15. My PS. Token Lots, Rassinkin, MYC, Blue Jay, Robert Bruce, and BZE Jamster. We got Leo in the call. Leo, where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm calling from Washington State as well.
Washington State. And what do you want to talk about on the show?
This is going to be the most one-sided finals in World's history.
Oh, okay. We are getting a World's take. Thank God. Before World Finals.
We have 2 World's takes. I made sure we found
shit.
2.
All right. So which direction is it going to be in? Is it going to be one-sided in?
T1, surely.
All right. So T1 is going to smash Weibo.
T1 3-0. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's going to be the fastest finals we've ever seen, but it's going to be so dominating that we're going to be like semifinals was the real finals.
Yeah. Well, that's good because I've got a flight to make, so that I'm hoping it goes quick.
How much are you sticking to this being the fastest or most dominant finals ever? Because there have been some pretty dominant 2019 FPX G2 kind of ones that were over pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at it from this perspective that we all knew EU had no chance. But people are thinking that Weibo has a chance. But they were blinded by the Shy and Cadril.
I wonder, Mark, how much Cadril has impacted the sentiment towards this finals and to Weibo. Because I feel like quite frankly, like usually, LPL fandom in the West is fairly niche most of the time. But because of how much Cadril, like how much memeing they've brought, they had Cadril doing memes on the broadcast with like the shirt and all that stuff. And did you hear he now is getting kicked out of the T1 offices?
Yeah. I wonder what's the full story there, because I feel like they wouldn't really care. Maybe they would.
I think it might. Okay, maybe even if Joe Marsh doesn't care, it might be a thing where like T1 fans would not accept. Like consider how T1 fans
I could
are.
see a world where even Cadril doesn't want to be there.
I think
for that reason as well.
I don't think maybe now he doesn't, but whenever like he did all that stuff live on stream, which is very bold, by the way, that he's just like showing like messages from Joe Marsh and all that stuff on stream. But so he's like, yeah, reacting to all that stuff. And originally he was like, oh, guys, see if you can convince him to let me stay. Which is a man who has clearly understands the pull and weight that he has in the space. But yeah, so I think he would stay there if he could. But I think now he's trying to leverage it into getting to the finals.
Yeah. Well, either way, that's neither here nor there. Cadril has been it's been the subplot of Worlds. Like,
Yes.
of course it's not taken over the storyline of the players or anything, but it's like
I just think people
B.
actually give a shit about Weibo in a way that they probably wouldn't have in the West without him doing this. So,
I mean, I think their story would be compared to DRX and like, wow, the 4C from the LPL is doing it this time. The Shy's back. Like all those storylines would still be there, but there's this extra hilarious layer over top of all of that, which is just like, no one believed in them. There's this fucking guy losing his mind, all of that stuff. So, I think it's really cool. On Leo's point, I don't think it'll be the most dominant ever, but I am really concerned for Weibo. Faker looks really fucking good. The Shy, I think, has a opportunity to get the better of Zeus, but I think it's close. Or Zeus, excuse me. And then I think bot lane is seems pretty strongly in T1's favor. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that obviously T1 going into this is very favored. I'm trying to think back to the previous Worlds and how T1 was, if they were favored or not going into those, especially in the ones that they've lost in the more recent years.
They were super favored versus DRX.
I mean, that's the obvious one, but even before then,
I think they were probably favored versus 2017 Samsung Galaxy. That's so long ago; it's not really relevant.
Yeah.
I don't think that they've ever been at least not close to parity versus the team that they're playing against. Just because with Keria and Gumayushi and Zaze and Faker, everyone always considered them basic. I think like JDG is maybe one of the first times that they weren't necessarily favored, but even their form against LNG had a lot of people believing in T1 and thinking that they were going to be JDG, and then they did it. So it wasn't even like they haven't. I don't think they're ever not at least like close to 50-50.
So last year, though, I do think that there was a lot more hype and belief in DRX going to that finals, though, right? Or am I just crazy revisionist historying it right now?
I agree.
I think there's a little bit more belief in them. Like Zeka was playing like the best mid laner in the tournament. They just beat Gen G, right? I think they beat Gen G in semis. So there was like a small belief in them, and they had like that plot armor buff. I don't really know if it's quite the same belief here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I think that even then there was more faith in DRX than there is in Weibo right now, outside of the Cadril camp. I'm just super fascinated to see how this ends up going down. Because I think the scary thing is, I think it's going to be really rough if T1 loses. Like back-to-back years, Faker keeps trying to win. I think the stakes are obviously, anytime it's a finals, the stakes are fucking high. But I think the stakes in this finals feel particularly high for T1 in a way that they probably haven't as much in the past, just because of the history and because of how I think folks are really believing that they're going to be the ones that take it.
Well, I think it's like Faker's legacy is pretty secure, but for the other guys, they have this kind of choker label that's fallen onto them a little bit, especially Zeus with like some of his finals performances that people are worried for him. So I do agree that there's quite a lot on the line for the legacy of some of those guys to avoid turning into chokies, and like everyone kind of getting those labels slapped onto them. The one thing I'll say is that they've already kind of won the finals by making it there because they get to meet New Jeans. I don't think that the players really give a fuck after the New Jeans concert. They'll just be riding that high.
Okay, so
Did
I
you
mean
see
that
the
seems
Ashley
to
Kang
favor Weibo
tweets?
then, right? Because if they're going to be, if most of their excitement and motivation is to meet New Jeans, like that happens before the matches, right?
No, but I think all the pressure, they don't care. They already won.
Gotcha.
Like in their minds, they're playing loose and free.
We fucking made it, guys. We get to meet New Jeans.
Yeah, Carrie is like. Have you seen the Ashley King tweets about like the New Jeans members seeing Carrie in the winning moments, being like, "I'm going to meet New Jeans."
Yes.
So yeah, I think that they already won and they don't care anymore about the finals.
Do you think that New Jeans is really hoping that they will come through?
Ooh.
I'm done with this call.
Okay. Thank you, Leo, for the call. Actually, are you sure, Mark? Is there nothing else we want to add on the analysis front?
No.
How favored is it to T1? I guess is the best way to put it.
I don't think it'll be the fastest finals ever, or like the most dominant. I disagree with you there. I feel like when you look back at it, there's been a lot of 3-0 finals. Some of them have been pretty stompy. But I do think T1 is massively favored.
Okay. I think I'm there with you. I'm not on the casual Weibo train. Leo, it sounds like we mostly agree with you, even if we don't think it'll be that much of as much of a stomp as some of the stompiest stomps. But anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Shout out to the viewer that said I sound like Kermit. I hate you so much. Shout out Alienware and shout out the World Stats team doing great work this year.
Very good. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. See you.
Mark, that you had mentioned previously we had a stats team caller.
For people who don't know, he hasn't left the call yet. Oh, am I lagging?
You're lagging. Or I'm lagging.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I think you're back now.
I'm back. What's up?
For people who don't know?
Oh, that guy shouting out the World Stats team. Might be a self shout out.
Yeah. Hashtag ad. All right. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Alienware. Folks, the Black Friday deals are on the horizon, and yet some of them are already here over at alienware.com/Travis. You can go check out their exciting deals. Black Friday gaming deals. Hit that view deals button. It'll be right there on that page, and you can already start to look at things like the M18 gaming laptop, which is available, as I say this, for $800 off. You'll get it by November 27th, depending on where you are at. That thing has a 4090 in it and an i9. You got to go take a look at these deals over at alienware.com/Travis. They've got amazing deals every holiday season like this, and I just don't want you all to miss it, because I know a lot of you guys are like, hey, my computer broke down. I'm going to go get an Alienware. I'm going to tweet at Travis about it. We're going to call it a day. And that sounds great. I love it when you do that. But for some of you, you're thinking, I do want to get something. I want to play some of these new awesome games, maybe Baldur's Gate or something. And, or maybe the new Cyberpunk, as it's been upgraded and fixed and expansioned, etc. And you're like, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until I get a computer at a good deal. And guess what? That time is now. Black Friday deals live at alienware.com/Travis. Go take a look at these things. You can keep looking over the next couple of weeks as we move further into the holiday season, but it's a great time to grab these. And I love it, by the way, whenever you folks tweet at me or let me know on Discord or elsewhere that this is happening when you are picking something up. Please do that if you feel like it, because it is a great way to let us forward it on. Because I know sometimes maybe you forget to click the link, which is, by the way, alienware.com/Travis, or it's not popping up for you or something like that. And so just whenever you get the stuff, letting me and maybe tagging Alienware in it, letting them know. It's a great way for them to see that you guys are supporting the show by supporting Alienware. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. Be sure to check out their Black Friday deals, their holiday season deals. And catch you next time. All right. Mark, you want to grab the next caller while I read out? Oh, he already is, it looks like. I'm going to read out some YouTube subs. We had Sir Ashton become a member of the YouTube channel. Doing so, by the way, gets you early access to content. 15 Diggity, thank you for the $5 super chat. Jeremy, thank you for the $10 super chat. And then Jeremy with the $2 super chat. So thank you. Jeremy says, let's beat Twitch donations. I think it's going to be hard because Twitch has been crushing you guys for a while. But
Gandalf, I wasn't muted. I was in the other channel talking with the caller who is now joining us.
Caller, what's your name and where are you from?
Greetings. My name is bearus Aurelius. I'm actually calling from Nashua, New Hampshire.
All right. And it's bearus?
Yeah, it's, sorry if I'm a little quiet. bearus Aurelius.
bearus Aurelius. bearus Aurelius, what do you want to talk about on the show?
How often do you think of the Roman Empire?
Oh, actually, now that you mention it. No, hey, I'm calling just about a little bit of a counterpoint to the last call. I actually think, kind of similar to last year, that Weibo may actually have a good style of play that counters T1, and they actually are going to win.
Okay. The thing I am most impressed about is that Cadril has lost his accent and has adopted an American one for this call, and it's quite
we'll see
late
how
there,
long
so.
it lasts.
Yeah.
Do you watch Cadril? Is this a independent thought, or has it been incepted by a screaming rat?
Cadril who? I'm sorry, I'm not sure who that is.
Okay. Sounds like a Cadril viewer to me. When I see the Cadril, the replies to his tweets, they don't seem to be very supportive of him. So it sounds like that. Okay. All right. So Cadril viewer, Cadril ambassador, why is Weibo going to beat T1?
All right. So a couple things. Number one of the biggest reasons I think, and I think a lot of people have pointed to for T1's success, has been the really rapid meta shift in the bot lane with the ranged 80 carries and a lot of the early game focus to get the game going. And I think Weiwei, ironically enough, is the perfect jungler to stop that. He's been one of the only junglers who's been consistently going down to the bottom lane and ganking early, and that's exactly what you need specifically for like some of these like double Halo Blades lanes to put those into the dirt and shut that down. That's just one point, but
all right. Do you have any other quick? You said just 1 point. Do you want to rapid fire another one?
Yeah, I'll try to rapid fire. So additionally, I think the Shy, if you look at the champions that he plays in comparison to Zeus, they actually have a pretty similar champ pool, but actually the Shy has, I think, a better lineup of champions he can pull out, because basically the only champ that Zeus has really looked great on has been Aatrox, and of course everyone's good on Rumble, but that's probably going to get banned. So I think the Shy actually has a better champion pool and has just looked phenomenal 1v1. So I think you can actually safely say that the Shy is going to win that 1v1 lane, which puts a lot of pressure on the top side. And I know Faker's been playing great. He definitely has been, but I think Xiaohu, you can argue, is one of the best mid laners to ever play the game. And I think he's really going to step up. And I also think that this may be the first series we finally see in Worlds where Faker's champ pool really kind of gets broken down.
Mark, is Zeus an Aatrox one trick? He looked sick on Aatrox last night. I will say that.
I don't think Zeus is an Aatrox one trick. His Jace is really good. His Yone looked pretty good. You already admitted that he can play Rumble as well. And like at that point, you're starting to get a lot of champions up there. I'm sure his Jax is serviceable because everyone's Jax is serviceable. I'm not really worried about Zeus's champ pool. I do think it's worth noting that like the Shy in form does have a lot of interesting picks. Obviously, the Quinn didn't work out, but the Graves did. He can play Ornn in games where it seems like the right pick. He's not afraid to like flex into tanks. He's played Cassante as well. I think the top lane matchup will be one of the most decisive things. If Weibo do upset T1, it'll be partially off the back of the Shy getting better series over Zeus, which is actually, I think, relatively possible. It's like one of the conditions that needs to happen, I think, for them to win.
What do you think of Bearus Aurelius's broader statements here? I mean, you already said in the last call that you think that T1's favored, but do any of the Weibo pros outweigh the cons here?
I think the Xiaohu point was maybe the most cope of all the things to cope. I think the Weiwei one's fine. I'll talk about bot lane in a second, but mid lane, dear Lord, was that some cope. Xiaohu has been very, let's say, hit or miss this tournament. I don't think he's like terrible or anything, but he has really struggled some games. And I think there was a concern about Faker's champion pool coming into this tournament. I don't have that fear anymore. He looks really, really good. Back when he was returning from his time off and he was just playing Azir and Nico, and it was like, okay, I guess this is all he can do. But I don't really think that's the case anymore. And Xiaohu, regardless of champion pool, has looked much worse. I think Xiaohu brings a lot to the table beyond his like individual laning and playmaking as one of the most historic players in the world, but like so is Faker. And so and clearly Faker mind controls his teammates to some degree based off how terrible they were when he wasn't in, so like I think whatever.
Dude, that's the best part of the story. It's just like this year's gonna feel so good if T1 wins just because of that hiatus and what it did.
Yeah, it's one of those times where like, what is the saying? Absence makes the
you don't know what you're missing until it's gone type deal.
Yeah, but one of those things. But there's like fondness. Absence makes the fondness.
The heart grow fonder.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, exactly. So like once you saw what T1 looked like without Faker, you're like, yeah, maybe this guy is like really good, even if he's not stomping his lane every single time like a Chovy or Zeka or some of those guys when they're popping off. So like whatever point you say about Xiaohu is like equally reflected in Faker and probably even better. And then individually this tournament, I think Faker is playing better than Xiaohu. So that's probably the biggest mismatch on the Rift. I think bot lane is really interesting because we have seen Crisp is willing to throw down with the wacky tabacky bot lane bullshit that's going on right now. He plays a lot of Renata. He'll play Melio. He'll play Ashe. He'll play Heimer, Lux. He is down to do it. I think Carey is better at that style, as everyone's saying. His Renata is also cracked. But I think with your point about Weiwei, there are times where Weiwei might be able to get down there and sway these really volatile double marksman, quadra marksman bot lanes that we've been seeing. So I think if there's a way that they take this series, it's what we said about the top side, the Shy kind of just individually having a better performance than Zeus, which I think is possible. And I think it's Weiwei getting down to the bot lane and kind of making these burger flippy, super high prio matchups go one way heavily in their favor a couple times throughout this series. And then Xiaohu is just like hanging on mid and not getting dicked down too bad.
Right. I do have one more point if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
It's kind of interesting. We saw in the T1 series, actually, it looked like Owner had a little bit of trouble when he was taking off of Rel. Obviously, his Jarvan is great, but pretty much at the tournament, it's just been Rel and Jarvan for him. And Weiwei has also been really high on the Rel play. I think it might be an advantage, actually, that Weibo could take if they can get rid of the J4 and pick the Rel first or something similar to that. It may actually put Owner in a kind of a tough spot because other than those two, he's only played like Sejuani and Poppy and I think Maokai. So he doesn't really have that large of a pool that we've seen. So that could be a weakness they could take advantage of as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a question of like how you get there, because banning Rel with all the other things that people like to ban and just higher impact champions and stuff like that makes me wonder if they're really going to do that. I think that's just basically my biggest question. I mean, maybe you can do it, if you're not on Red Side, you're not banning Rumble, or, maybe they have some answer to Rumble that we're not sure of quite yet. But that's my initial thoughts is like, well, are you going to leave Ori through? Or are you, what about Nico for Faker or this kind of stuff? Like, is Rel really a higher concern than Faker's Nico or, Zeus's Rumble, these sorts of things. So maybe they can find an avenue to unlock that ban, but otherwise it feels kind of hard, depending on the side that you're on, to consistently get rid of that pick.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the time, guys, and obviously just shout out to Alienware. They're fantastic, and also shout out to all the people who supported you on your trip to Korea. That was really awesome to see all the content you put out. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super glad I was able to do that. Still Still was a bit of a hit, I think, to the TGI company, but I think it was super worth it, especially with all the stuff. And there's still a couple more videos to come, so thank you for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
You have a good night.
All right. Take another caller now, if anybody is available. We got over on YouTube, Robert Bruce, Jamster, Shonatonin, Zaxozen, and Crayon295, thank you for the Prime. And then Tay just sent 10,000 Korean won, and the Muxable sent $3 Australian. So thank you. I thank you for the super chats. We've had I've had 3 or 4 different super chats on YouTube tonight, and that's they're trying. They're trying. Hey, Basil is here. Basil, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from California.
California. It's a very big state, but we'll keep your location secret. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is I think Fudge has been receiving a lot of hate from the community, and he doesn't really deserve it. Since they announced they're going to be extending their contract, or at least that's what the rumors are, I've seen a lot of people mad that C9
Well, they did extend the
isn't looking for
contract,
it.
to be clear. The contract database got updated. He extended, so. But you can continue.
I've just seen a lot of tweets that they should have gone with an import, that Fudge is washed. We've seen his best performances in like 2021, and I think it's pretty unfair. He's been a top 3 player in his position for the past 2 years. He's been great domestically, and he's not even horrible internationally, and I don't understand where the hate is coming from. I think he's been a very consistently good player, and the idea of replacing him for just any random import like people were talking about Wonder, I just don't understand it. And I think that the community is just a little too cold on him.
I very much agree with you. I don't know why he's getting so much hate. I think maybe it's just people frustrated after Worlds and their Worlds performance, but like it's actually wild to me because I feel like Fudge has been a consistent performer for C9 over all these years. I think there have been times where he's had bursts of off time or whatever where he's not been as great. But he's obviously shown a lot of loyalty to the org, and I think it's rare that he's not in the top half or even top 3 of top laners in the league since he came in. Obviously, he was not always a top laner, though. And yeah, it's just a little strange. Mark, can you explain why everyone hates Fudge now?
Because he opened his mouth. That's why. I think like.
Oh, wait. Okay, we're supposed to do that thing where like he never says anything interesting in interviews and then keeps his head down,
Yep.
and then nobody ever notices.
Yep. I think there's 2 things going on here. I think everything you said so far is right, Travis. I think unfortunately when you're really good at the game, you go to international competition more often and you get your ass slapped, and then everyone goes, "This guy sucks," and they don't want to watch you go get your ass slapped again. And they like there's always like the grass is greener kind of effect. And so I think Fudge has gone to most international tournaments over the last 3 years. He's gone to what, 2 MSIs, 3 Worlds, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. You know, he's gone to like 5-ish international events. And like, I love Fudge, but he clearly struggles into the best top laners in the world. Like every single North American top laner has basically always done. Like, other than Impact sometimes playing weak side and going okay into them, or like having his moments, like I think Impact, you could argue, is probably the best international performing top laner of all time in NA, which is fair. But like, I don't really think there's that many other top laners in NA who have historically gone to consistently to international performances and haven't gotten taken advantage of. Like, I really don't think that there's that many. People are even the names that people are listing are like not really true. Like Licorice, no offense, I love Licorice. This past MSI was good, but during that Worlds run, he was kind of on like weak side and just like kind of getting torn apart by Keen and Bwipo during some of that. He had some really good group stage games, but like if you just want to point out individual times that players have had good times, like that, you can do that with Fudge too. During that first MSI he went to, like, yeah, he had great games on, I think it was Lee Sin and Akali or whatever it was, you know, like, Balls had a good performance during that one time on
a
Darius
decade
or
ago.
whatever. Yeah, like a decade ago. You know, I'm like, these are not counterpoints to exactly. This is just like proving my point. It's like, yeah, guys go out there and they like have a couple games that you remember as being good, and then you like they get fucking slammed. Like Dyrus was the same way. You know, like there's no one who has gone consistently and like done really good. And that's my point. I think the more you go, oftentimes fans will turn against you. And I think the reason that happened with Fudge more than some of these other guys is that of all those people I just listed, Fudge is easily the most talkative, we'll say. You can say he has an ego, you can say he's arrogant, but like he definitely opens his mouth and talks some shit. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too. And I thank God he's in the league, because in a league of players who are quiet and like to stay under the radar and not say much, like at least we have a guy who's down to fucking do content, talk, and be a compelling person for the league. And by the way, is not bad as a player in the process. I don't know. It's been really disappointing. I thought for sure C9 fans would be excited about it, but I don't know. They're in some weird mode right now. I saw somebody in Twitch chat call it the double lift effect, and I think it's kind of a fair one, right? Where everything Mark was just saying, similar thing, right? Like double lift, one of the best players the league has ever seen, and consistently went to international events, and then would just get thrashed with his entire team, and then people would be like, double lift actually sucks. Big mouth, says all this stuff, and then just ends up with a lot of haters. And haters make them famous, I guess. But also, it's unfortunate now to see, I think, a player who should be celebrated for sticking with C9 and for continuing to be there in a league where everybody likes to swap and rotate chairs all the time. People just being an asshole about him. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I fully understand why someone might not like Fudge, to be clear. Like, I think he has shit-talked other pro players, you know, usually I will say in good spirits. And he's like just sharing honest opinions about like, oh, this guy's not good or that guy's not good. I know sometimes fans feel like he has shit-talked them, which like...
Yeah, I see that, and true. I'm like, the only thing I can remember is he said like "fuck you" to the haters or the people that didn't believe him. Like, am I forgetting something where he's just been like, "Well, LCS fans suck" or something? Like, I feel like he's usually been more frustrated at haters.
Yeah, I feel like that's true, and then he also has like sometimes people didn't like his practice habits, you know, where they're like, "Oh, he's lazy" or whatever. Or he's like, oh yeah, I've picked up other hobbies outside of League of Legends to help balance out my life more, and you know people take those.
How sometimes. You know what? Actually, I take it back. Fuck that guy. I can't believe somebody would try to do something like that. You know, like, hey, if you were gonna be somebody who I tune in to watch for free every week, running ad block on Twitch, and then I go on Reddit and flame you. You better not fucking do anything else with your life other than play League of Legends for my pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I get why there's plenty of reasons to not like him if like any of those things had rubbed you the wrong way. And I can also see why you might not be thrilled because you've seen him enough times international now that like you already think that C9 is going back to international and grass is greener. If they got this other guy, surely it would work out. And I just don't think that's really true. And I think he is a great player. He has basically, like you said, always been top 3. Some people were asking, was he top 3 this year? And I think for summer, yes. For spring, or excuse me, other way around. For spring, yes. For summer, not quite. But like even that was like debatable. It wasn't like he was not good. It was like, oh, Licorice is suddenly really good, you know, and like Impact's still fine. And like, I guess him. Who else am I forgetting? There's some other top laners who stepped up, but I can't remember right now. But yeah, anyways, it was
Summit.
Oh yeah, Summit, Rich. Yeah, Revenge was slightly better. You know, like a bunch of top laners I think stepped up and he like was not clapping as hard, and so it became debatable, you know, but it wasn't like he was ever like terrible or anything like that. Yeah, so people are listing a lot of good options, but you know, like he was always holding his own for the most part. So anyways, point being, I agree with Travis. He's a good player, one of the best tops domestically, struggles a little bit internationally, like almost every top has, and he is an entertainer. And
C9 fans are lucky to have this guy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sad that whenever I open a thread that's talking about Fudge, just like, fuck, we got Fudge again. This guy sucks ass, and he's gonna win 2 more or domestic titles and go to international and like, yeah, then lose. Like NA hasn't always fucking. Anyways,
Thanks so much, Basil, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Shout out Alienware. And shout out to you two for having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the call. We'll catch you next time. All right. Off Mark goes to get the next caller. Thank you to no one, because no one has subbed, which means it's a great time for me to plug my link tree. I have a support link tree. It's linktr.ee/TGI support. It's the TGI support profile and link tree. I'll drop it in Twitch chat and YouTube, and then I think we have it updated now so that it's on the YouTube description of this as well. And that link tree, I made it, I think maybe a couple weeks ago or so, right before I went to Worlds. It's got a bunch of different ways to support TGI and our content. And so, but I don't think it got too many clicks while I was doing the Worlds coverage, which is completely cool. But I do want to shout out 2 folks who grabbed stuff off of the Amazon wish list for me. That was a nice little gift. So thank you to those folks.
where's your OnlyFans?
Well, Mark, you and I talked about creating some sort of subscription service together, and why haven't we done that yet, Mark?
I don't know. I'm telling you, this is a great idea. If we actually made an OnlyFans, but put League of Legends podcasts and normal content on there.
Well, one, I've already said we would do Fansly because I have a pretty good connection with somebody over there who does stuff, and so I feel like
we get a
Fansly
better
would
rate there.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Exactly. And I think Fansly also, like, it could fly under the radar a little easier. So
That's called Patreon, Mark. Yeah, except Patreon's for fucking losers.
Oh. Well, I actually
called-
did
it's
have a
called
conversation with
marketing, guys.
Patreon about a month ago, Mark, but hopefully they don't catch this part.
Scrub this from the
They
book.
seemed, I want to be clear, they seemed really supportive and like they were going to do a lot to help us launch something. And then I told you about that, and then we've had to delay that a little bit. But but yeah,
Anyways.
somebody got me a pack of pens, which was really cool from my Amazon wish list, and somebody got me a deck box, so that was pretty swell. Thank you.
I gotta say, I don't know. Whatever.
How do I get the Mark? Can I ask you? Here's a question. How do I get the pay pigs?
I don't know.
I
You
heard
gotta do
about
some
this
market
recently.
research on how Findom works.
I heard about this recently, and if I could get in on this, I feel like it's pretty good. I don't know how we can, like, esports has had so many eras, right? Like, I was talking to somebody about this recently. It's like originally we had like the gray key market with like the G2As and Kingwin or whatever, you know, like those weird markets where you could get like CD keys.
Yeah, secondhand resellers or whatever.
Yeah. And then we had VC money, and then we had crypto money, and then we had gambling money, and now I feel like we're entering like the Saudi prince money type. I think the next thing is the Findom era. That's when esports just dominates the people in the audience and gets them to go.
You can just ask like Cadril and other streamers, you know, like when they have the people who are wailing out in their chat, like, do they consider that a form of Findom?
Hey, we got a caller here. Caller, where are you calling from?
Wisconsin.
And what's your name?
Suta.
Suta?
Fox. Yeah.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
I just wanted to say that FlyQuest nuking their roster is going to kill any momentum they had for building a fan base for 2024.
And I see that you're a sub in the chat. How do you feel about subbing to us? Does that make you feel a bit dominant? Anyway, okay, so FlyQuest and their roster. You said that it's going to lose a lot of their fandom from this year. Why don't you go ahead and elaborate?
I'm sorry.
You're good.
You let it out.
Yeah.
I don't think Travis is funny.
Dude, I was just the guy in the corner, just what the fuck?
You're good. What do you think? Why do you say this about the FlyQuest roster?
basically the whole thing is that roster consistency is a really big thing for building a fan base. Just looking at, CLG into Energy and how much of a fan base they accrued by keeping together such a consistent roster. Even Team Liquid with their TLCK, they only swapped out one player throughout the entire split, and they still managed to build or keep a pretty sizable fan base by building around their new player APA. And now FlyQuest is taking all of their momentum they had with their, massive budget, big ballin' Prince Vikla imports. Let's go run the LCS, and now they're just going, not necessarily budget, but they're going with a. I know Masu was a really good Academy AD carry, but now they're going with an Academy AD carry. They don't have a support yet, but they dropped a superstar in support, and now they have Bwippo and Inspired, who both haven't been in the league for 2 years, and I don't even think Inspired is even making content on the side.
I wouldn't single out Inspired. That's that's sort of the current LCS player meta. So,
hey, Bwippo was out there hustling. He was showing up on the LCS.
Yeah, that's why I didn't.
He was casting.
Okay.
He was streaming.
That's a good point. So what would you have liked to have seen them do?
I mean, at least keep someone, right? Anyone? They don't even have their same coach, right?
No, I don't think they. Well, I think they've retained some of the coaching staff. I don't know how much they are retaining. So I'm very split on this because on one hand, at the beginning of the stream, I did a pretty big rant on the boomerang stuff, and like, boy oh boy, is FlyQuest a pretty great example of that.
Of all the boomerangs to boomerang this year, they boomeranged the most.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen all of TL's boomerangs yet, so we'll see. Maybe there'll be harder boomeranging going on over there. But I do feel like this is a pretty good example of that problem with the league. On the other hand, the team dramatically underperformed. They threw out their GM, who'd been there for a long time. They brought in a guy whose sort of MO is young talent, North American players, et cetera, et cetera. And I am hopeful for FlyQuest because I think what Andrew Barton was able to do over at EG with building that roster over the years is a pretty good sign for FlyQuest, assuming that they keep him around for a couple of years. Like, quite frankly, I'm hopeful for this in a way that, like, people, even though they are bringing in quote unquote import talent, like, these players are players that have continued their careers in the LCS, and at times even when they weren't in the LCS, right? Like, Bwippo stuck around in North America. I Inspired, I know, wasn't doing content or whatever, but did not go to an LEC team, is continuing to stay in the LCS. And so I think, like, this is, obviously we have Masu coming in, supposedly. I think that this is a roster that, even if I'm frustrated with what's happening now, I think does have the potential to be a longer-term bet for fandom in the league, and the way that, like, perhaps the previous one didn't. What do you think of that, Suta Fox? Because I'm curious.
I'm just like, what are you going to build a fandom around, though? Because you have two superstars, so you can't say that you're going to be, a fully rookie team or a full young team or a full NA team. Like, Energy had that monocle, not monocle, that whatever the word would be for that.
The title or moniker, yeah.
Yeah. And then you had TLCK, which is like, hey, we're a bunch of Koreans. Not necessarily. They're a bunch of Koreans.
But I don't feel like the TLCK thing actually built that much fandom. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm biased because I was sort of frustrated with that mantra in the first place. But, like, I think fans by and large were kind of frustrated with that. And I don't think that you need, like, a theme to your team in order to build fandom. I think what you can do is you can be like, hey, like, here, if I'm FlyQuest, here's what I'm fucking saying. Hey guys, in a year where a lot of the other teams are leaving the league or are cutting a lot of their spending, what we're excited about doing is continuing to drive towards winning, and we think that we're building a roster for the long term. We are committed to these players. We can't promise that we won't make a change here or there, but we don't anticipate, unless things go horribly wrong for some reason or something happens outside of our control, changing all 5 of these players year over year. And we know that there are a lot of fans that are looking for a place to go, as you've seen teams like TSM leave, CLG leave, and rosters that just feel like they're here to flip. And we think that today's the first day that we're going to be taking a step forward on building a brand and a roster and everything for the long term. And we think you can believe in us. Like, I think that is enough to say for FlyQuest going into next year. And you're right that they like blew up the fandom, but in a world where every team is kind of blowing up their fandom potential every year, one, it's like bad for the league long term. But from just looking at it from a team perspective, hey, that's you have as good of a case as any team to make and try to capture fans this year. You know,
Travis, the flip flopper Gafford strikes again. This guy's
why am I flip flopping? Explain this to me more.
All right, you're throwing shade about boomerangs. You're talking about how we need to have teams stick together. You know, we can't have this like turnover. It's so hard to build fandom when people are, you know, having new players to root for every single year. And now you're like, FlyQuest can say that they're building fandom because they're investing in the league and all this jibber jabber.
Don't you feel like investing in Whippo and Inspired is different than investing in Vikla and Prince?
No.
How long till Whippo goes back to LEC or content?
I don't know. He sat around here for an entire year doing nothing.
Yeah, because he loves the LA lifestyle. That's
oh boy, that's where we're at.
He loves the Hollywood parties.
Anyway, folks, pull out your bingo card. If you're at the LA lifestyle for this offseason Hotline League, then you get to put your marker there.
There's just one more thing.
Yeah,
looking historically at FlyQuest. Looking historically at FlyQuest, I don't think they've ever actually kept a single player past 1 year in the history of their rosters. I mean, I think maybe Jose Dioto and Afromu and that's it. Every single year that they've nuked it.
I mean, it continues to, very much demonstrates my point. Like,
and how many people are actual FlyQuest?
So then why are you down for this, Travis?
Since this year when they brought in Prince.
If Travis's platform is teams need to stick together longer, how can you excuse FlyQuest and let them off the hook?
Because
sir?
I think
how could you?
I think that what I see. Okay, here's why. Because their answer to losing Vikla and Prince wasn't like, oh, let's go bring a player from Weibo Gaming or a T1 player, whoever wins this year, and then let's go bring like another player from like. I don't think that Whippo and Inspired represent sort of the 1 year flip in the same way that other teams are. Like, I am not. Here's the thing: I'm not against importing players. I'm against the boomerang that occurs so frequently. Yes, losing Prince and Vikla is a quote unquote boomerang, but they're keeping 2 players who have, in one way or another, stayed within the LCS ecosystem from another region. Like, that is something I'm in favor for. Like, I think that's great that like Whippo and Inspire will be playing for an LCS team next year rather than going and playing for Excel.
But they did just boomerang, and these guys might boomerang again next year, especially after the caller just highlighted.
Yeah, and I'll be fucking frustrated if Whippo and Inspired are on Excel next year.
How many times are you going to let them off the hook?
Mark, do you think I have been letting teams off the hook for the past 2 years?
You're letting FlyQuest do it right
Everyone
now.
is fucking tired of me doing the boomerang of a thing, right? Like, I feel like people are frustrated with me for saying this so often.
Of anyone to boomerang this offseason so far, the FlyQuest is the biggest of boomerangers.
They are the biggest of boomerangers. They are
from the
boomeranging
outback.
after getting last place or close to it, and they are boomeranging and they are replacing the boomerangs with anti-boomerangs. What's the opposite of a boomerang?
Bro, you can't call these guys the opposite of a boomerang. They both played 1 year in the league and then left.
Well, they did not leave.
Yeah, but teams didn't believe in them, which is the same point that we've said about other boomerangs, where it's maybe not the player's decision or whatever.
And they're all spamming rocks, anchors, frisbee, dart, guns.
It's a frisbee. Here's what it was. You threw a frisbee for a dog to retrieve, and it just sat on the ground for a year, and finally the dog brought it back.
I don't want it.
Wait,
that's
No one is a dog. Okay, we're
lazy
not gonna.
and they froze.
I want to be
Full
clear
circle.
that no
GMs are
one. We're not
dogs.
saying anyone is any
The
kind
G-
of
I'm saying the GMs are
subhuman
dogs.
form of life. So-
I'm just saying that this, like, the argument about what makes a boomerang versus not a boomerang, you said it wasn't always the pro players, and both these guys played in the league for a year, and then for whatever circumstances were then out of the league for a year.
Yeah,
And now
but the
they're coming
players
back into the league
themselves
for a
stuck
year.
around.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, based off your own definition from earlier in the night, we agree that boomerang doesn't always mean it's the
I
pros'
agree.
fault.
That's why I say I'm torn on this. I think that's what I said at the start of the call. Don't like Vikla Prince leaving, resetting roster, all that stuff. I can understand why fans would be frustrated. That is an example of a bad thing. They are now doing an example of a good thing, which is retaining talent that has come to North America and putting them on a roster. And so I can both be frustrated that, like, they are perpetuating the system by that I think is flawed by doing the roster turnover thing and having these players presumably leave the league, while also being happy that at least they are not doing the same thing that I see a lot of other leagues teams do in the league by causing problems that will continue to roll forward.
Papa Smithy in chat says, if we don't retain 3 out of 5 players in 2025, it's a failure. Book it.
For 2025,
Yeah, 420. So
I
assuming that
420.
this roster works out.
FlyQuest hasn't retained more than one player over the past 6-year history in the league.
Well, I don't know how many people are even left from those previous years. So I mean, you are.
Ignore just went to LEC.
What?
Ignore was on FlyQuest.
No. I was
I
saying
think Travis meant staff.
the staff. Like,
okay.
FlyQuest is essentially a new organization at this point in time.
Here's my real thoughts on the
Ship
move.
of
I'm super down. I was mostly just fucking with Travis the whole time. I think that the 2023 roster, for whatever reason, just didn't fucking work at all. And I'm fine with them not wanting to sign up for another year of that, because that is terrifying after you underperform that hard in summer to just, like, I don't know, try and run that back. So I'm actually super down in that circumstance to, like, from purely a roster construction perspective, I'm like, well, that was a disaster. Let's like wipe the slate clean and start over again here. And I think Whippo and Inspired are interesting, especially if Inspired is getting his green card. I think it was Inspired, right? That was reported.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, if Inspired gets his green card and then you grab an import mid, probably Travis.
I mean, that's annoying.
Like, what about Vithio? What's he up to?
Vithio.
Didn't he just get replaced? Yeah, Vithio. Didn't he just get replaced? What's he up to? I like that guy. I don't know. There's some options there. Who knows what they end up doing? But Masu, I think, is a good talent. I'm really excited to see him in the league. I actually am excited to see Whippo and Inspired back, as much as I was just, like, memeing that shit. But, I think that they are potentially some interesting options for the mid lane position if they end up getting that. I know it will be scary for the Travises of the world that you are bringing in another import mid laner into a team full of imports. It's probably a high-paying roster, or relatively, in an ecosystem that has salaries decreasing, and it makes it hard to. It has a high barrier it has to clear to make it worth it, I guess is what I'd say.
I think that is very fair. I am worried, obviously, about the mid lane stuff, but hopefully they have had the discussions and they're bringing a player who's, like, very interested in continuing their career in North America. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Mark, here's the best way of putting this. I think when we talked about, like, I guess the mid lane import is the only thing that breaks sort of the theoretical thing that Mark and I have talked about before, where was it us or was it a caller that had the theory of, like, the player owns the import slot?
A caller brought that one up first, I think, and then we both were like, that's great.
Yes. I think that this is a pretty good example of where that could work a little bit, where, like, hey, yeah, these two players have already been in the league. It's not like 2 or 3 new players that are coming over or something. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, Hey, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah. Two things. First, have a safe flight, Travis. I know to Korea is always a long one.
Yeah.
And shout out all the delivery and mail carriers, etc., who are going to be working this holiday season. Stay safe, and I know it's going to be hard and difficult. And you guys got this. As a mail carrier myself, I know it's going to be rough, and we'll get through it.
Yeah, that's a very nice and generous shout out. Thank you. To do.
Oh, and then my girlfriend, she'll kill me if I don't do it this time.
Nice. And yeah, thank you for the
Saved.
thank you for the shout out on the flight, because it is rough to be doing to Korea, back from Korea, to Korea, back from Korea, but that's just sort of the way
Yeah, you'll
esports
get
is
the
right now.
full NA Pro experience, right?
Yeah.
Anyone who has to fly and has disposable income, I cannot recommend a Steam Deck enough. This has revolutionized my flights.
Yeah. I was thinking about grabbing one of those since they announced the new one. Unfortunately, I won't get it in time, but I was thinking about getting an
You
OLED
can
one.
borrow mine maybe if you want. Probably not going to need it.
I don't think I'll have enough time to get it from you.
Okay.
And set it up and everything, because I literally am
Yeah, you have
flying
to download all your games and shit on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
and I
dope.
have other things I need to pack and do tonight. So anyway, thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. And shout out Travis Gafford OnlyFans.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I will bring my Alienware X14 with me, and so that'll be good. But I am curious about that, which is a non-competing category to my understanding. Okay. Thank you to the Muxable. Oh, I already got you. Basil leaf. Is this the basil leaf? I think it is. If it is, then thank you. And if not, then also still thank you. Also, shout out to Subbies and Evan P, both for the $5 super chats. Very generous of both of you. YouTube started to come through. We're up to $36.46.
When they super chat, what happens? Like, is it a message that they highlight and you're supposed to read
so
the message
they highlight a message. It has like a special border around it, and then it shows up on here. And it's just a straight dollar amount.
Are they? Okay, so they're not saying anything in the super chat, like.
No, they are. So Evan P, for instance, says, "Play rock paper scissors with Mark right now." And then earlier when Muxables sent the 3-year Australian, they said, "I wish my Australian money was worth more." Tee-hee.
Huh. You don't read them out, Travis? No wonder your YouTube people feel shafted.
Well, we're doing the show. I think people would feel shafted. I mean, Twitch people also send messages with their subs and stuff. I don't know if you've not noticed that in the many years that you've been here.
No, I don't pay attention to anything.
15 Diggity says, Mark talks about shows, movies, and books a lot, but I've noticed he has good taste in music as well. What are his thoughts on the band Sleep Token?
Never heard of him. I actually don't listen to that much music.
We got a caller here. Caller, where are you calling from, and what's your name?
My name is farmerginge. I'm calling from Calgary, Alberta, Canada again.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. What do you want to talk about this time?
Today I wanted to talk about, I thought I had when someone on the broadcast, I can't remember if it was someone on the desk or one of the casters said something about the recent SKT JDG game, saying that the world's patch is lined up perfectly for Faker. And my take is that we should remove this world's patch that we've been doing for however many years and reduce the number of patches. We currently have 24 down to something like 2 per split, which allows a little bit more consistency. So you're actually getting the best teams across the course of the year at Worlds rather than the best team on that patch winning at the event.
So you're saying no more Worlds patch?
Yeah, just get rid of it.
Wouldn't we just get the best team for the previous patch winning that event?
Well, if you change the patches between like twice during a split, then you get the consistently best teams across the whole split from each region at Worlds. And then you get the best teams that were consistent over the course of that year on those patches at Worlds. But you're more likely to get, what I'm saying is, I think you're less likely to get the stomps in some games that we've seen this Worlds happening as often.
Yeah, I guess it goes into the question, which I think a lot of people try to kind of avoid, which is like, is this team better, or are they just better on this patch?
Yeah.
And how much of a patch determines, like, because theoretically, we love this idea of divorcing the patch and the game from the team, and it's just like we hold them up and they're like, these are the best players in the world in 2023. Hooray! Like, they're world champions. And I think we don't spend a lot of time, perhaps purposely, because we don't like to think about it too much, being like, this is the best team in the world on this patch in 2023. Hooray! They're the champions of this patch this year. And I don't know. I'm kind of curious what you think of that, Mark. Like, how much does a patch lead into this? Because, I mean, Faker's made it consistently to finals so much over these years. And we've had a lot of different patches. So I feel like it's not the biggest determining factor by any means.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on this. My first thought is that it is sometimes cool to see a patch get solved more going forward. Like, I think this world was really interesting through play-ins and group stage, where you had like this one meta with Kai'Sa, Xayah, and engage supports, and then you go to a knockout stage, and everyone's like, all prio bot lanes, baby, enchanters and poke mages and double marksman bot lanes, and all this stuff that was like the meta in spring. So I think it is sometimes cool to see a patch evolve, even without patch changes coming through. And I think that can be really cool. I think that doesn't always happen. And sometimes teams' initial read of the patch is also right. And sometimes you end up playing the same things for the entire tournament, or similar enough things for the entire tournament. Maybe there's like little wrinkles that get worked in, but more or less you're doing the same things. So like it's a pretty big gamble to then block off an entire year into one patch and hope that like, you know, teams are going to keep finding new things. I know people reference Melee or these other things where, yes, things evolve over time, but they evolve over time on a really big scale where you have, no patches in Melee for 20 years, but like, guess what? Spaceys and Marth have been the fucking best for 20 years. And like, you're debating if it's a 55-45 matchup or 50-50 or 64, you know, like the scheme of things is pretty different. Like, oh, well, Sheik is like good, but is it like top 8 good or like top 4 good? You know, like how good is Sheik? How good is like, it's not particularly interesting, to be honest, and especially not interesting in a game with 150 champions. You know, like, I think that you will have largely similar-ish champions being played. And, like, there are plenty of games that survive without major patches or, like, changes and whatnot. Like, so I don't think it's inherently needed or bad, but I do think what makes it extra weird in the context of League of Legends is that the game is changing. Regardless of if you freeze this patch for competitive play, there is an actual live game that is getting patched. And the players then are now practicing on this live patch 4 months into the future for solo queue that they are not playing for their competitive games. And that fucking sucks as a pro player to have to play on 2 different versions of the game. And the longer you freeze a competitive patch, the further and further away you get for solo queue. And it becomes worse and worse and worse as the patch quality degrades.
Oh, did we lose Mark?
It's like you're worried about competition being fair and stuff like that. This is less fair, if anything, because you've isolated and kept it from a position where they can actually practice. I see I've frozen. I'm back.
Yeah, I think you're good now. Oh,
I'm back. Maybe not.
Yeah.
No,
I think you had a bit of a hiccup, and then I think we're good.
All right. The final, because I've been ranting a lot or rambling a lot. The final thing I'll say is that the team that's best on a patch, which is what you guys are saying is you know, the concern. It absolutely is true. Like I do think there's truth that like a team is the best on this patch. And it can be a little weird when the world's patch is different from the qualifying patch, and a team like DRX is like the best in the world all of a sudden and stuff like that. But at the same time, like you're already isolating it to a patch anyways. Like regardless of when you freeze the patch, it's going to favor some teams or not. Like I think JDG was a team that was very happy with Kai'Sa, Xayah, and engage support kind of thing. And T1's a team that's very happy with double range and carry being able to flex his insane champion pool. And like, regardless of when you freeze a patch, it's always going to favor some players over other players. You know, so like, I already acknowledge the fact that like the people who win worlds on that patch are the people who are the best at that patch. Like, yeah, absolutely. Of course, that's going to be true no matter when you freeze the patch. The only difference is, again, the qualification happening on one patch versus the other can be a little awkward, but I mean, like, whatever. I don't care. That's the fun of competition, is things change, you know?
Yep. No, I think it's well said. Do you it sounds like you're against the colors position of suggesting of having an earlier patch type deal.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm against it is of all those things I listed, it's strictly the live game evolving way past the frozen patch.
Yeah.
I think in all those other examples, it's like Overwatch is maybe one where they tried this, and I don't know if people found that particularly enjoyable to have a live game very different from the stage game.
Sure.
Can I
Sometimes
ask you,
they were
Mark?
running that even on a patch that didn't exist, or a game that didn't exist in Overwatch 3, from what I understand. Sorry, caller, you were saying?
No, it's okay. I was just going to ask Mark. I'm sure I've heard people come on here in the past and say that the patches and the balance of the game is directed mainly at pro level play, right? So if that's the case when it comes to patches and balance and all this kind of stuff, why is it that they're practicing on a live game that is 4 months in the future? If it's if it's so much focused around pro play, why do we still have this disconnect between the live game and the esports season almost?
I have two thoughts there. First, the game isn't like solely focused around pro play. There's plenty of bronze changes, and they have like, if you ever read the patch notes closely, they have like those like bars that based off the colors say like what part of play this change is targeting. And it's mostly around worlds where they really hone in on pro play. Over the course of the year, it'll be a little bit more spread out. But I actually agree with the premise that you're saying. Like, I do think that for the most, I know the balance team gets a lot of shit, but I think for the most part, the balance team is pretty responsible with the changes, and that like live patch isn't usually such an abomination compared to like a patch 2 weeks later, which is the current cadence that we're on, right? We follow the live patch by 2 weeks in order for hot fixes to come through and bug fixes and these little things. But I really don't think that there's really that many cases where it's like, oh God, thank God we gave him the 2 weeks to iron that out. And if when that does happen, it's almost always release champions, which are not even the balance team's problem, right? That is the design team making that champion and putting it out. The balance team will give feedback prior to release, but then like there's a whole handoff there that goes on with Riot and how that works. So like, outside new champion releases, I think usually the game is pretty safe to play it. Like, I don't think you need that disconnect, honestly.
What do you think, caller?
I was just trying to get Mark's opinion on that because I don't really understand that side of things, but I do know that they're like right now, especially in live game, there is obviously a disconnect. But yeah, I guess my last point on this that I'd kind of want to speak about is, do you ever think there's going to be a way that we can reduce the number of patches down from 24 a year so that there is more consistency over the course of a season, where the meta changes, of course, like you're talking about? The meta is always going to change when there's even at Worlds, for example, and I know people in the Twitch chat have been saying that. Do you think they'll be able to reduce the number of patches so that change isn't as drastic over the course of a season, so that there maybe is more consistency of the best teams being at the tournament over the course of the year?
No, I don't. Well, so like on the one hand, I don't know if you need 2 week patches. That feels pretty aggressive. And I'm sure they have some analytics about how player retention on the live servers changes across when patches hit. But 2 weeks might be too aggressive. And I think maybe if you pulled it back to a month, especially with the reduced champion releases that exist now versus when the 2 week patch cadence was set up, I think you can make a case that they overpatch the game and you could slow it down to once a month. That said, the biggest disturbances, that happen in professional play happen around end of season and mid-season when they do big scope changes. And it's not the 2 week patches that are radically changing the meta. Sometimes that happens, where like this S tier pick gets gutted because we're sick of seeing Yumi, or Zeri gets like crushed, whatever. But usually the biggest changes are happening at this time period where there's supposed to be turnover in the league anyways. And like they try and sync it up with the professional season when they do big changes. And those are the ones that really change the meta. So yeah, I am pretty whatever on it. Hit streak in chat says, you don't want to slow patch getting, so that leaves a lot of time where you could get stuck on a bad patch. Yeah, I think...
Does that give you more opportunity to improve as a team, though, if you get stuck on a bad patch? Rather than just thinking about, in 4
I think
weeks'
Hit
time,
Streak's talking about the player base getting stuck on a bad patch.
I think he was talking more about live numbers. I think that's potentially true, but I also think that maybe it gives you more time to set up that initial patch. Like if you're not on a 2-week turnaround cadence and you have a month to test the patch before it goes out, maybe that makes you able to better evaluate the changes in the first place. Like I admit I'm out of my depth here. I don't do balance, but who knows,
All right. Hey, thanks so much, caller, for calling in. Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Yeah, sure. Shout out to Alienware for supporting you, Travis. Hopefully we'll get some more sponsors soon enough. And then shout out to my friends here that are tuned in for the show, Kai and Dave, and the guys back home in Scotland as well. And have a good weekend, everyone.
Yeah, very good. Have a good one. Thank you.
Cheerio.
Cheerio indeed.
Cheerio.
Hey, thanks everyone for showing up for this stream. I know it was last minute at a weird time and on a different day, but we still had a lot of folks call in. Trying to think if there's anything roster rumor wise I can speak about. I've had a lot of people asking me about Double Lift. I have not talked to Peter at all during this off season. I don't anticipate he will be playing next year. Maybe somebody will pick him up, but I think the big challenge, the reason why I don't think he will be playing is because I think previously there was a pretty big gap between what he could make streaming and doing all and participating as a content creator and being an LCS pro. This year, I think there's a gigantic fucking gap. And I think it's going to be harder to justify that for him. That would be my guess. So, and he's an example of, I think, probably several different players. I mean, obviously he's in a unique position of being able to make a lot of money during the content creation route, but I do think there will be other players who likely bow out of the league or take different roles or whatever, because as much as people want to pretend that, I work just as hard as these pro players do, it's a lot of fucking work, and you give up a lot of things in your personal life to make it work. And there are, if you're making 75 grand and living in LA, it might sound like a lot to some people. It's not maybe a lot to others who are living in LA and working 60-hour weeks or something like that every week and giving up a lot of personal life and all that stuff. So I don't know. Again, I haven't heard that he's for sure out or anything like that. It's just people keep asking me, so I will address that. I haven't heard anything about Spica. Mark.
Yes, sir.
What do you want to shout out, plug here at the end of the show?
Nothing. Nothing's going on in life. It's just happening, just flowing around me as I do nothing.
I feel that way sometimes. I think we all do. But maybe things will change for you. You got any holiday plans for Thanksgiving? You traveling anywhere?
Yeah, I'm going back home for a couple of days over Thanksgiving, and then probably going to do a small Christmas trip up for Ashley's family.
So the weird thing is that next Monday, not this Monday, but next Monday, during regular Hotline League time, I will be on panels discussing Sunlit Man and Realmatic Theory. So, but that is also, unfortunately, free agency day. So what I might beg Mark to do is do that show earlier in the day. I will be in a hotel room. Are you okay? What is that little expression?
I was just like earlier in the day.
Well, I mean, I think free agency, I need to figure out what time it begins. It's normally in the afternoon. But I think going live around that time might work. And then if I could get out in time for, I think it'll be 6:00 Pacific time that I need to be done. I need to be on the panel. So yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I will be, to wind down the show, I'm flying tomorrow to Korea. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Travis, didn't you just get back from Korea?" Yes, I just got back from Korea. If you missed the beginning of the show, I'm going back for finals, and for World's Media Day, where they do a bunch of cool stuff, do some press conferences and all that. So that'll be there. I think Needham and Nas no longer do interviews with me, so unfortunately, I won't have one of those. I think they're in full Travis Gafford dodge mode right now. But should be pretty fun. I have a sponsor who is sending me over there for an event that's the day before finals. My coverage will not be sponsored by them, so I'll still be shilling my link tree, I guess, if anybody wants to promote or support that as they look at any of that coverage during that time. But yeah, other than that, that's the show. I feel like normally we have some bigger thing here at the end to talk about, but you don't really have anything to talk about. I'm going clear.
What about when is episode 300?
I think this is
We're coming up on
episode 298, if I recall correctly. Let me take a look. I stopped shouting it out in the beginning of the show, but the thumbnails. The only reason I know is because our thumbnail person, Jordan, she continues to thumbnail the number.
Then there you go. That's something to shout out. I think we'll have a very fun 300th episode planned. Maybe not. We'll see. But at least we're coming up on a big milestone, and people should tune in for that. We'll probably, I don't know, pop some champagne, get some bubbly, do something a little fun.
I'll cry.
Cringe. Emotions are cringe.
Anyway, that's the show. Catch you all later.